There are plenty of diets that assume they are the absolute best method of losing fat. They are wrong. There are only two ways you can lose fat, and one superior than the other. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Nomcho, and if you don't know who I am, I'm just a random guy on the internet that's interested in nutrition and functional fitness. I lost an initial 24 kilograms in the span of about 8 months, and more impressively have managed to lose another 6, and I've managed to keep it off for the past 5 years, which, if you look at any study ever done on losing fat, is the most difficult part. Not actually losing the fat, but keeping it off. With that being said, I'm making this video because there are numerous ways to lose fat, and I have gone through absolutely every single one of them. But there are two methods that stand out regardless of what diet you might choose to approach this with, that just work better. The first method of losing fat is just basic calorie counting. If you count your calories 100% of the time and you allocate time and effort into each single calorie that you calculate, your fats, your proteins, your carbs, then you will undoubtedly lose weight and lose fat even if you stay in a caloric deficit. This just means that you eat less energy than you expend in a day. And while arguably this does work, it leaves a lot of room for error. A big gaping void that you might find when you're counting calories is that you can eat practically anything that you want. Do you want to eat only 1,500 calories, keeping yourself in a 500 calorie deficit of only donuts? Go right ahead, you can. But you're going to be left feeling miserable, your hormones are going to be all over the place, and you're going to lose just as much water and muscle as you will fat. And that'll lead to something called skinny fat, and I'm certain that all of us here don't want to be that. Counting calories really only works, long term especially, when you consider eating a whole foods diet at least 80% of the time, and then 20% you eat whatever you want. Whether that's donuts, chocolates, it doesn't really matter. Now, is that a way to get you to your goal? Yes, but undoubtedly at some point you might get tired of counting the calories. And when you do, while you might have some kind of idea of what kind of calories each morsel of food that goes into your mouth is worth, you probably won't be 100% as accurate as you have been, and then you're probably going to proceed to gain more weight once again. Basic counting calories with no other limits works something like this. You count your calories and you lose the fat. You then begin to get into cheat meals. However, because of your hormone dysregulation and the fact that the nutritional value of the food that you're eating is low, you begin to binge. Your cheat meals turn into cheat days that turn into cheat weeks. You get depressed because, of course, ultra-processed food somehow manages to cause depression. And then you get into further binging, which results in more hunger, which results in regaining the fat en masse, even more than what you started off with. This is the virgin calorie counting method. And for some of us, it works perfectly. But for those of us, like myself, that it doesn't work perfectly, it will never work perfectly. Why? Ultimately, at my core, I don't want to count calories. There are other things that I do in order to stay healthy and in order to stay at a lower percentage of body fat. But counting calories and doing maths every single day, measuring every single piece of food that goes into my mouth, is a bit exhausting if you ask me, and so I tend to try to avoid that. So, what does work? Well, lifestyle changes work. Tomorrow, instead of counting calories, make one change. The week after, make another. And then the week after, make another. And then the week after, make another. You can break this down day by day. Every 3 days, you change one habit and you stick to it. And the less effort that habit requires, the better and greater that change will be. Tomorrow, when you go to the shops, for example, and you inevitably want that cheesy craving, instead of going for full fat cheese, find a 30 or 50% fat reduced cheese that you could eat otherwise. You're probably used to eating a certain amount of cheese, so you're still going to eat the same volume of cheese that you're used to and that you love, but you're going to get half the calories. Begin making lifestyle changes like this and you'll find yourself unwittingly losing fat that you didn't know your body didn't need. Next week, instead of having cereal for breakfast, have eggs, avocado, and toast. And if you really want a sweet kick, have some honey drizzled on that. You'll be surprised how weird yet how delicious that combo is. Ultimately, the lifestyle change looks something like this. Change your meals to higher quality foods. When you eat higher quality foods, you get more nutrition. When you get more nutrition, you're hungry less. You crave less, and so you eat less calories in total, even though you're not putting in any more effort to eat those less calories. Even a 200 calorie deficit over a long enough time frame can make all the difference. At some point, I'd hope that your habits change to eat at least 80% of whole foods in your diet. And this will not only result in increased satiety, but increased nutrition in your lifestyle. With that increased nutrition, your body will get more efficient at burning fat. So you could be in the same caloric deficit as somebody only eating donuts, and where both of you might lose 4 kilograms, you would lose 3.5 kilograms from fat and 0.5 kilograms from water, whereas they will lose 2 kilograms from fat, 1 kilogram from water, and 1 from muscle. You see, it's just more efficient. Slowly but surely, you'll also be giving yourself time to adapt to the habits that you're forming. At some point, it'll be practically unthinkable for you to get full fat cheese when you know that 50% fat cheese is on offer. Same with yogurt, for example. Instead of getting a full fat, you can get the no fat, the fat-free version, and you can begin eating with that. Another lifestyle change you might begin making is eating higher protein and lower calorie versions of the foods that you love. My advice to you with that is to either go online and search up the recipe, just write lower calorie in the search bar alongside it, or go on Instagram and find that as well. The recipes there are surprisingly good. Again, like this, you can eat all of the pancakes that you want at a fraction of the calories. Couple this with working out regularly, and not only are you going to see the fat absolutely melt off, your hormones are going to go into proper symbiosis, and your body will just begin working at its upper levels. You'll be something akin to a well-oiled machine. Needless to say, this lifestyle involves 0 calorie tracking. Still though, I would suggest tracking your calories for at least a month, not so that you can make any particular change with them, but just so that you can get a brief understanding of what kind of calories, what amounts there are in different foods, so that when you are looking at them in the aisles, you have a rough idea of what the hell is going on. It's worth it to know what kind of calories, macronutrients, and micronutrients are going into your body, and taking an active approach to health as opposed to a passive one. That being said, if you don't know what foods to eat and what foods to avoid, you can click the link in the description and get my primal blueprint. There you'll get things like a full functional fitness workout plan and routine, but more importantly, a very simplified and easy to follow system of what foods are objectively good for you, of what foods are subjectively good for you. They might work for some, they might not work for others, and what foods are objectively negative for you. They don't work for anybody, and you should keep them in the 20% food category where you might have a cheat meal. Not that you should ever call it cheat, psychologically speaking, but where you might have a cheat meal at the end of the week. With that being said, stay undeniable, and I'll see you next time.